Hello there, Internet. My name is JB, and today we are going over the recent patch in Pokemon Unite and putting the things into a tier list. What we're looking at on the screen right now is my tier list from Fouling's release, so we're just going to take this template and then adjust it for the recent patch. So what I did was I went ahead and made a new tier list with all the stuff that got patch taken out. So what I'm going to do quickly is we're going to go through everything that's just in the tiers, move stuff up or down as I see fit, and then we'll go over the patch stuff at the end. We're gonna try to make this a quicker one. I kind of like this format a little bit more if we could just follow one tier list to the next one and just see how my opinions change and see where the meta shifts and whatnot. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Again, this is just my subjective opinion. I mean, my opinions are usually pretty spot on. You'll see that I'm usually right about most things, but beside the point. I'm not, here to brag or anything. Maybe a little bit, but whatever. We're just gonna ignore that part, and we're gonna talk about the tiers. But again, anything low that you play well on can be moved up a tier in the right hands, obviously, and anything that's maybe a little bit too high on your end could be lower depending on your experience in the game. This is just my experience with the game and how I perceive things to be balanced in the current meta of the game. Of course, we also have the EX Pokemon down here because they are banned in Mastering, so we are not going to look at them because they don't deserve the attention. All right, starting off with Umbreon. Nothing changed about this Pokemon. Still broken, still top of the tier, still S tier. Great. Trevenant, same sort of thing. Still fantastic, amazing Pokemon. Great CC, great sustain, amazing Mon for sure. Probably a little bit on, pretty high up there in terms of broken things. One of the better Pokemon in the game for sure, so we'll not be too surprised to see Trevenant nerfs in the near future. But then again, I also don't think it's as broken as some people think it is. It's like that. It's not really the placebo effect thing, but it is kind of just like the Goodra effect a little bit, where people just still haven't figured out to not attack Trevenant when Pain Split is attached. That's my biggest tip. If you're Pain Split or one of your enemies or teammates is Pain Split, just walk away from the tree. Pretty much it. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Comfey. It's the most broken thing in the game, and if you're not using one of your bans on Comfey, I don't know what you're doing. It's completely enables everything broken about the game. Yeah, you could deal with a Metagross, or you can have a T-Tar on your team, on the enemy team, and banning those is cool, but then they could just slap a Comfey on a Scizor and you're still in the same boat, or they could just slap a Comfey on a Mimikyu or a Zoroark. Comfey makes things that are broken even more broken, and Comfey that fix things that are B tier and moves them up to S tier. Comfey is the biggest problem in the game for sure. It's disgusting. Ban Comfey. Stop wasting your bans on Fouling. Stop wasting your bans on Gyarados. Not that those Pokemon aren't great, but those Pokemon with a Comfey, unbeatable. So ban Comfey. It's busted. Trick Hoopa, or Hoopa in general. Trick Hoopa specifically, I think is the best pocket support in the game. I think it's very, very good, very powerful, and deserving of S tier. Hyperspace Hole is obviously still great. One of the better Unite moves in the game. Can do some solid damage as just a presser as well. Leafeon, probably the best speedster in the game. I'm a little bit lower on Leafeon than consensus, probably. I know people put Leafeon way, way, way up there, but I think Leafeon's still very, 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 very good and one of the more annoying Pokemon to deal with. However, I don't know, man. There's just something about splitting speedsters into this all-arounder meta that we're kind of in right now. It's just a little bit rough, but Leafeon's still absolutely dominant, absolute BS against 90% of the attackers in the game. So yeah, Leafeon's still very crazy. Glaceon did get nerfed. It should be down here with these guys. So we'll move Glaceon down. Glaceon got nerfed, right? Am I tripping? That was this patch, or was that last patch? I don't remember. This was this patch, right? Yes, it was. Okay. Spoiler alert. Still pretty good. Ninetales. This is one of my hot takes. Or no, we'll go Venusaur. Venusaur, it's unkillable in the right hands. Another Pokemon that Comfey just elevates to ungodly status, so ban Comfey. But yeah, Giga Drain is insane. Petal Dance is great. Solar Beam is still decent, although I'd say Giga Drain is probably the far better build these days, especially in the brawly all-arounder meta we're kind of in. And yeah, big fan of that. One of the best C9 moves in the game. Easy S tier. And then, like I said, Ninetales, one of my hot takes. I think it's incredibly good into Brawl. It's incredibly good into Melee. Just does insane damage. Has great crowd control. Fantastical. Again, this is a hot take. It's probably closer to A tier. But Ninetales is one of my least favorite Pokemon to play against. And I've never seen a Ninetales do bad unless it's on my team. So yeah, Ninetales is disgustingly good. So I'm leaving it in S tier. Buzzwole. I gave it the benefit of the doubt. in the previous patch that it was going to remain S tier after nerfs. I hadn't really seen it too much or played it too much, but I can say with confidence, while it's still very, very good, I don't think it's deserving of S tier. So we are going to be moving Buzzwole down to A tier. Like I said, still an incredible Pokemon, still very, very good, but the nerfs making it so you can't automatically reset your superpower plus on cooldown, so you don't have like the insane amount of crowd control that you used to. Still very good, mind you, and still does a lot of damage, but it's not quite as broken and it's not quite as good, so we're going to give it A tier. I think that's fine place for it. Crustle, still really solid, still really good Unite move. Rock Tomb is great. X Scissor is very, very good. Stealth Rock is a little bit usable. Shell Smash is fun. Crustle's still really good. I think it belongs in A tier. Slowbro, what's to be said about Slowbro that hasn't been said a million times at this point. One of the best Unite moves in the game. Scald and Surf are both viable. Telekinesis and Amnesia are both viable. Slowbro's great. Good last hitting in lane. It's fantastic. Meowscarada is one of the most overrated Pokemon in the game. I'm still going to give it A tier though. Meowscarada is a Pokemon that gets banned in like 50 to 60% of my matches. And again, as someone who thinks Comfey should be banned every game, or even, you know, any other number of like all-arounders, or like even Leafeon, like I get why people don't like playing against Meowscarada, but it's just one of those Pokemon that I never see do well. I have never once been scared of a Flower Trick Meowscarada. I've never seen one do well in any of my games in months. So while everyone in my comment section, or most people in my comment section, will tell you that it's the better build than Night Slash, like I've never seen it do well. It's kind of like Inteleon. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, I think Meowscarada is really overrated. I think it's still really strong. I think Night Slash is incredibly powerful. It's very, very good against dive and squishies and attackers when you do see those things, but slightly a little bit too highly rated. I think most people would have an S tier. I think it's firmly an A tier Pokemon. Still great, but not as good as people make it out to be. I think Talonflame could be considered for a potential move down. I don't hate the idea of doing that, but I think it's yeah, I think it was a little bit too high on Talon. We're gonna move it down to B tier. I think it's still really good, but the problem with it is it's really good against squishies and it's really good at diving backlines. The problem is the backlines these days are just you know, tanks usually, or Venusaurs or stuff. So yeah, a lot of bulky things. It doesn't really like diving onto all-arounders or really other speedsters. It can, you know, obviously dive with Leafeon, but if you miss your fly and you get hit by a Solar Blade or a Leaf Blade, you're kind of donezo. So yeah, Talonflame still very good, one of the better speedsters in the game, but not quite on the level of these other two, I would say. Zoroark, it's basically all skill ceiling. If you run into a good Zoroark, you're in for a bad time, and I do have to give Zoroark the respect of anyone who's good on this Pokemon will absolutely dominate every single game they play with it. Another character that just warrants a Comfey ban all the time, so ban Comfey, so you don't have to deal with Comfey Zoroarks. Eldegoss presses the A button, heals a lot, gives off shields, really good Unite move. Eldegoss is still very good. Clefable heals an entire team of Moonlight. Moonlight's still broken. Gravity, let me see. Let me check my watch real quick. Yeah, Gravity still works, still very good. Gardevoir, some of the best damage in the game. Moonblast is busted. Crazy, stupid, busted. Really good Unite move on a really low cooldown. One of the best junglers in the game. Gardevoir's great. Dragapult presses the A button quite well. I don't know if A tier is warranted for this Pokemon. I kind of think ADCs are not in the best place right now, and I kind of think Cinderace is better, but I know that's a really, really, really hot take. But it's one I'm kind of willing to stand by. I'm going to put it at least on par with Cinderace. Am I? No, I'll leave it A. I'll leave it A. Because B just feels too low for it. I could move Cinderace up to A tier. We could do that. But we'll get to Cinderace when we get to Cinderace. I think Cinderace is, if you watch my video that went out yesterday as I'm recording this, I think Cinderace is the most underrated Pokemon in the game. But yeah, no, big fan of Dragapult. Presses the A button well. Good Unite move. And also Dragonite is actually really good against this guy. Pretty good against this guy. So yeah, it's pretty good in the current state of things. So I'll give Dragapult the benefit of the doubt. Espeon and Sylveon, both EVs, both evolve at level 4, both have insane damage at level 4, both have both of their moves at level 6, both have Unite moves at level 8. EVs are broken. A tier easily. Chandelure. Chandelure is always going to be a tough one for me because it's a Pokemon I rarely see. But whenever I do see a Chandelure, it's always pumping out ridiculous damage. And that's the thing with Shandy, is that its damage is so high and so good. It's so, like, consistent. I think it's just worthy of A tier. It does have one of the worst Unite moves in the game, if not the overall worst Unite move in the game, besides maybe Dragonite. The problem, that's like the only problem with Chandelure though. It has a good laning phase, has decent last hitting with Ember, can jungle as well. I think all 4 of its moves can be comboed in any way and be successful. The only bad thing about Chandelure is its Unite move. I think Chandelure is really, really good, so I'll give it A tier. Dragonite, I'm a huge fan of, but I think with the buffs to other all-arounders, we have to just move it down to B tier. I think other all-arounders are just kind of going to power creep a couple of these guys. We're going to do the same thing with Azu and the same thing with Phalanx. I think, you know, just a few other all-arounders being really good right now are the only thing hurting these guys. But yeah, they're all still really, you know, strong and, you know, worthy of being in the middle tier. But I think, you know, just these characters being slightly better, having slightly better last hitting, and, you know, these two guys getting buffs just kind of has to push some things down, just like, you know, but the give and go of things. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move those guys down. I think Dragonite is still really solid, one of the best ADCs, one of the best A pressers in the game. So still really good. Hyper Beam's great. Outrage is playable. Also is incredible early, and if you snowball a game, if you're ahead all match, you're great. It's kind of like that speedster effect. If you're winning the game hard, you're going to dominate. If you're behind a little bit, you can still do well. But if you're just kind of on par, you can still do well. But if you're behind, I should have reversed this. If you're on par, you can still do fine most times. But if you're behind in levels, you're going to struggle a little bit. And then Phalanx, it's just kind of coming back down to earth. I don't think this character is, it's fine. Like it's middle of the road. I think people are, once again, just, I don't even want to say overreacting, because I think the general consensus is that Phalanx is just pretty decent, but it's still banned in like half of my games for some godforsaken reason. Like, this is one of the worst bans you could possibly make, is banning Phalanx in Master Rank. Like, it's not good. Like, Metagross hard counters it, Venusaur hard counters it, Ninetales hard counters it, Mean Look, it actually is pretty good against Mean Look. Trevenant bullies it. I mean, it's good with a Comfey, but Scald's all of them. Like, Phalanx is good, don't get me wrong, it's very strong, Megahorn's great, but stop banning it. It's like, it's just a fine Pokemon. It's like banning Aegislash. Like, what are we doing? Okay, back up here to A tier. Blaziken, it's still good last hitting, really strong all around. Just, you know, is what it is. Mimikyu, very annoying to play. Good sort of assassin-y speedster style speedster play style. It's just good, it's fine. 89 move as well. Gyarados, I think, listen, the only thing that's keeping me from doing this immediately is the fact that sometimes Magikarp players do get stuck, but Gyarados, once it evolves, is absolutely disgusting. I think Gyarados is really good, so I am going to move Gyarados up to S tier. Dragon Breath is just nuts. The attack speed you get from it is crazy. It itself does really good damage. Bounce and Waterfall are both very, very good. There's a guy in my Discord server who is an incredible Aquatail player. I think Aquatail is ass, but this guy has achieved insane things. He's got, like, I've seen screenshots of him going on like a 15 to 20 game win streak with Aquatail Gyarados, just dominating. So like, people can do well with it. I've just never seen it personally. I would just always play Dragon Breath. You can play Dragon Breath with either of the other two moves. So yeah, I think Gyarados is just really, really, really damn good. Really good Unite move as well. It's just, you know, sometimes you get stuck at Magikarp for a minute longer than you should. So, but yeah, Gyarados, I think, is deserving of S tier. Snorlax. Snorlax is a tough one, man. I like Snorlax a lot, and the block buff is nice, but it's just too reliant on teammates, man. It's too reliant on follow-up from your friends. Flail is a meme. Don't ever play Flail, but like, the Snorlax feels better than a C tier, but Mamoswine also feels better than a C tier. C tier is not bad. It's just, I would like, the other defenders do that job better. Just other defenders are just slightly, you know, have something a little bit extra, be it damage or be it CC. Snorlax doesn't really have the damage to keep up unless you're playing Flail, which, like I said, is a meme. Block and Yawn are both really good, both really solid moves, both broken if you ask me, but you need your teammates to follow up on them, or you're just kind of, you know, not doing really anything. So I think C tier for Snorlax is fine. It hurts. I like Snorlax a lot. It's really fun, but requires a little bit too much coordination for solo queue. Goodra, I just did triple 100k for my second time on Goodra. I think Goodra's great. The problem with Goodra is that people tend to fight it 1v1. Don't do that and you'll be fine. Kind of like Trevenant, just walk away from the Dragon Balls. Don't fight it in a bush and you won't have a Goodra drop triple 100k on you. Yeah, or don't play Phalanx in a Goodra. Just simply don't do that. But yeah, Goodra, pretty good. B tier. Lapras. Lapras is a tough one, because it's another Pokemon I rarely see, if ever, and it's obviously not as impactful as it was, but like, all of its moves still work and still do like respectable damage for a tank. It's not really something you want to fight. It's more of like it's not something I would ever pick over literally any of these other defenders ahead of it. Even Goodra, I would never pick over Lapras, but like, Lapras, if you just want to play something that just works, like, it's good. Like, it still does respectable damage, has respectable CC. It's still relatively tanky. It's just not broken like it used to be. Like, it's still a pretty good Pokemon. Talonflame, we already talked about a little. It just kind of struggles with what's good right now, but it's still a fine Pokemon. If you actually use your abilities to hit people and, you know, don't back up. But Fly Area Lace is great. It's really good into Phalanx. You know, just, yeah, it just depends on what you're playing against. Talonflame can still have its moments. Same thing with Absol. Absol, I think Absol's just too solid early and too solid like all around the game to move down. It's pretty good. It can, you know, play well with Pursuit. Like Pursuit is really good right now. Psycho Cut's really good right now. Sucker Punch is decent. Like you can get good value out of all of its moves. Its Unite move strong. It's really good early. I think Absol still deserves B tier. Zera, I'm a huge fan of. Like I for how good Discharge is, I simply can't justify moving Zera Aura down. Like Discharge is so good. The amount of shields you get from it, especially with how like playing against the Phalanx, which I see, you know, if it's not banned, it's in like all of my games. And you know, just doing AoE damage to tanks and defenders, slap on a Cursed Bangle in game, or you know, a weakness policy or a Resident Guard, and you're just really tanky doing a ton of AoE damage. And then, do I need to mention this? If you're a long-time viewer, you know what I'm about to say. Wild Charge is one of the most broken moves in the game. So yeah, great at shredding tanks, really great at shredding squishy backline characters. I think Zera's really good. Dodrio. Oh boy, am I about to do something stupid? I might be about to do something stupid. I low-key think Dodrio is actually pretty bad right now, but I don't know if I'm willing to move it out of B tier because it does still have that skill ceiling like Zoroark, where if I'm going to give Zoroark the respect and say that good Zoroark players are able to lift the Pokemon up, I can say good Dodrio players are definitely able to elevate this Pokemon. But my god, does everything counter Dodrio. It is so painful to play. I've been trying to get a good Dodrio game for like 2 weeks now, and it's just every single game I'm getting just stunned by something that's not even on my screen and losing my sprint gauge. It's so annoying, very annoying. And it's not. It's just also not great into like Trevenant or Umbreon, and those are in every game. It's also not great into Blastoise, and those are in every game. But yeah, it's still really good in the right hands. It's still really good in the right matchups. So I'll leave it in B tier, but like I cannot justify anything higher than that. People who think Dodrio is still broken are crazy because it is far from it. And then Scyther, who we are ranking with the speedsters, I should have noted, like you could probably tell that like defenders are first and then supports are next, speedsters. Like we're going in order of role, not in order of like where I see them within the tier, if that, you know, wasn't obvious by now. But yeah, Scyther, I think it's still fine. I think B tier is fair. It has a little bit more sustain than some other speedsters because Dual Wing Beat heals you. It has a really strong Unite move. Problem is it's not so great early game or not so great late game. But it's okay early game. Not so great late, but Absol also has the same problem. Talon also has the same problem to some extent. I think Scyther's good. I'll leave it in B. Mr. Mime, nothing has changed about it. Still solid. Power Swap is good. Confusion is good. Psychic is good. All of his moves are good. You know, moves good. It's just there are supporters that support better. There are defenders that defend better. Everything I just said about Mime, ditto for Wiggly. There are supporters that support better. There are defenders that defend better, but Wiggly is really good. Sing is great. Q-Charm is busted. You could talk me into low A as a defender for Wiggly, but honestly, I don't hate low A for Wiggly as a defender, but as a support, give me, you know, any of these other characters. I'm going to leave it in B tier for now. Cinderace, I don't care. I don't care. I have Ninetales S tier. I'm moving Cinderace up to A tier. I think Cinderace is one of the most underrated Pokemon in the game. The A button still works, people. The A button still works. This has some of the best auto attacks in the game. Just point blank period. Blaze Kick's really good. Power Ball's really good. Feint is really good. Okay, we'll go back to the Feint in a second. But Flame Charge, also really good. Solid Unite move. Like, yeah, you're gonna get the meme Cinderace who just sit in a bush and try to last hit everything with their Unite move. Like, bro, if you're just playing Cinderace like you're supposed to, A pressing enemies from range and deleting health bars, like Cinderace is great. It shreds tanks. Like I don't understand why some people don't think Cinderace is good. It's very, 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 very good in my opinion. And there's this weird thing where some people think Feint is bad. You do realize this move makes you invincible, right? You do realize you literally have iframes like on like a really short cooldown, and then you get a ton of healing with your autos after that. Like, what Feint's good. End of sentence. Okay. Pikachu, Unite moves all the time, ton of stuns, really good. Inteleon. Okay, here's the thing with Inteleon. In some experiences, yes, it can be top of the line S tier. However, I have still yet to see a single good snipe shot Inteleon in my games, and until I do that, I refuse to move it higher than B tier. I acknowledge they exist. I have not seen one. I have not seen a snipe shot Inteleon on my team do anything good. Hit a single shot. So until I see like one consistently dominate a game like so many other people say, I'm not moving it higher than B tier. I think the solo queue, normal, just random Inteleon players are not good enough to justify that. Like I said, I never, ever see them. Already talked about these three. Garchomp. Garchomp is a tough one as one of my favorite Pokemon to play and as my most played Pokemon. Oh god, I don't know if it's still worthy of B tier. But then I look at the things in C tier, I'm like, yeah, it's still better than those, so B tier. It's fine. But the problem with the Garchomp is it just dies. It's not very bulky compared to other all-arounders, and one of its builds is completely useless. I really like playing ground build. It's really fun, but both of its moves can get canceled. Like dig, you are quite literally under the earth and you can still get stunned out of dig, and then earthquake, you can obviously just get stunned out of the middle of it. Like, why do we still have moves that can get interrupted in the middle of them when so many things just have unstoppable on cooldown at level 5? Like, why is my level 13 Garchomp getting stunned out of its ability? Like, what are we doing here? But yeah, Lucario, again, same sort of thing. I don't know if it's still you know, worthy of like being in the middle of the pack, but then I look at everything below it and I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Bullet Punch, still very good. Or not Bullet Punch, Power Up Punch, still solid, really good secure. Extreme Speed, really good in the Phalanx, obviously, still playable. Good Unite move, good early, good late, B tier. Machamp, I'm doing this because of the player base, not so much because of Machamp. Listen, Submission got a buff a couple patches ago. It's not good. Stop doing it, and especially stop doing it if you're going to jungle. Jungle Machamp's already not good. Don't play Submission Jungle Machamp. Don't do it. Stop it. Get some help. Hated Slash. Hated Slash is fine. I've been playing it a little bit lately. It's really fun. Kinda struggles against bulkier things and other all-arounders, but can also shred them if you're ahead. Like, it's another Pokemon that needs a level lead to do really, really well, to excel, if you will, but still solid. Scizor, I think B tier is fine for Scizor. Heals a ton, has great sustain. Maybe that's a little bit high, but the defense buffs do feel solid. And if you manage to not run into a mage, if you're picking Scizor in drafts, like if you're last picking it into a team with no mages, you're going to dominate. So in the right matchups, yeah. In the right draft scenario, yeah, definitely still good. All right, moving down to C, Snorlax. Good, not great. We already talked about it. Mamoswine, the only thing keeping Mamoswine out of B tier is the fact that it evolves at level 9. That's literally the only thing wrong with Mamoswine. It's so good. It's really, really fun. Really great Pokemon when it's ahead on levels and when it's on par. But since it's, you know, gets online so late, like, I would just rather have the other defenders, but it has really good CC. It's really strong. Like, Mamoswine, it feels low. It really does. But I'm going to leave it in C tier just based on how I rank things with, like, having to evolve at level 9. Like, Garchomp, it's better than the other all-rounders, but like, I would rather have Goodra and Lapras over Mamoswine. I would definitely rather have these 4 over Mamoswine. I would rather have Blastoise over Mamoswine when we get to him. So yeah, I love Mamo. It feels wrong, but ranking it against the other defenders only, yeah, it has to be there just because it does evolve at level 9. It evolves so late for a defender. And then Gengar, same thing as Mamoswine, but for speedsters. Like, yeah, I could have a Gengar at level 9, or I could have, you know, an Absol level 9 all game, or I could have, you know, this character, or, you know, Leafeon dominating and already have its Unite move a full level before Gengar even evolves. Like, Gengar's fine. It's a character that if you're snowballing, you're going to do well on, but if you're not, you're kind of a detriment to your team. Greninja presses the A button, not as well as Cinderace, clearly. You could talk me into moving it up to C tier. I think Greninja is a little bit underrated. I think Water Shuriken's a little bit underrated. Might have to mess around with some Water Shuriken on a video because I do think it's actually quite good. Like, a tankier Greninja with Water Shuriken can actually do some things. So we might mess around with that in a future video, but it's another character that just really, really is matchup dependent. So I'm going to leave it in C tier. So yeah, you could talk me into moving it up, but we're not going to for this. Charizard, it just needs a little bit of love in terms of damage. It's fine. You can still win with it and do well with it, but you know, it is what it is. Machamp, already talked about it a little bit, but Submission is bad. Dynamic Punch is only okay. Really good Unite move still, though. So I'm going to leave it in C, but yeah, I would rather have these guys, and then obviously the characters that it was more directly compared to got some pretty nice buffs. Serena's okay. Serena's a tough one, man. It's another character that really good players are going to do really well on it, but I think it's just kind of worse Scizor, less consistent Scizor. It's squishier Scizor for sure. I like Serena a lot. It's really more of like a backline killer than it is a brawler, so I'm gonna leave it in C, but it's fine. Dark Bear, good secure. That's literally it. That's literally the only thing keeping Dark Bear out of D tier is that Wicked Blow exists, so there's that. And then we get to the absolute don't tier, which is our D tier Greedent. Just don't. It's bad. Doesn't do anything helpful for a team. Like, Blissey is kind of okay as like an all-arounder build, but there are so many other all-arounder builds out there. Sableye is the most useless teammate in the game. Just simply don't. This is gonna rustle some jimmies. I know Duraludon has so many just defenders, like people just love Duraludon, but the only good skill it has is ripping an objective, which is only good half of the time. So yeah, Flash Cannon is the worst move in the game, and it's not close. Dragon Pulse is only decent. Awful mobility, and yeah, it has good range. And yeah, I know you guys, I get it, you guys do well with Flash Cannon. I know you guys do a lot of damage with it, but like, what else are you doing? And why is there so many buts? Like, it's always like, but people don't know how to deal with it, or people don't know what they're doing against it, or people just don't know how to build it the right way. Like, yeah, there's so many buts, or the character's just not that good. D tier. Then Water Bear, it's just worse Serena and worse Aegislash. Doesn't do a lot of damage, doesn't have the sustain it used to. It's just not good. So unfortunately, we have to leave Water Bear in D tier. Now let's go ahead and make our way into the Pokemon that actually got buffed and nerfed. Starting off, I'm just listing it in order over here on Unite DB. I'll leave the link to that in the description if you haven't seen like the actual numbers for the patch notes. So starting off with Mew. Mew has 50 less special attack starting mid game or late game, and then it's just lower special attack pretty much from level 1 on. And then they also nerfed its boosted attack, and they nerfed its Unite move again. Like, I get that Mew needed a nerf, and to correlate this to our last tier list, Mew was in B tier. So Mew being in B tier, I think was a fair place for it now, for it then. But listen, good Mew players are still going to be good. I just don't understand why they keep nerfing things about Mew that aren't broken. Like, sure, you can lower its special attack, whatever, that's fine. Why are we nerfing its Unite move? That's the second time its Unite move has been nerfed, and it didn't even need to be nerfed the first time. The damage on Mew's Unite move has never, ever been a problem. When Mew first released, there was a combo you could do with Mew's Unite move, Surf, and its boosted auto that could kind of one-shot things, but that wasn't really the Unite move doing that. That was Surf and the boosted auto doing that more so than the Unite move damage. Like the first nerf, fine, sure, I guess if you want to nerf its Unite move damage, that you can, but it wasn't already doing much. But then the second nerf is just, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand why Mew just keeps getting hit with nerfs. I don't want to put it in C tier because I think that's too low for how good the character can be, but I don't understand why we keep nerfing things about Mew that aren't the problem. Blastoise. They nerfed the damage on Water Gun early game. They nerfed Hydro Pump. Hydro Pump's damage, Hydro Pump Plus's damage. They also nerfed it during Rapid Spin, so it does less damage, less scaling overall. They nerfed Water Spout's damage and scaling. They didn't touch Surf, they didn't touch the Unite move, they didn't touch the tankiness. Listen, barely anything has changed about this Pokemon. Yeah, Hydro Pump does a little bit less damage. And allegedly they nerfed the stun duration like less than half a second. It went from a 1 second stun to a 0.6 second stun, which is still plenty of time to just combo into a Surf or combo into a Unite move. So yeah, it's a little bit more balanced, but Blastoise is still top of the line, one of the best Pokemon in the game. I tried to combine character and Pokemon there. That's what that was. But yeah, it's still great. So there's that. Oh, I forgot Gyarados actually did get a small change. It gets its Unite move slightly less often now. It went from 89 seconds to 112 seconds. So that doesn't change my opinion of it. It's still S tier. Metagross. Metagross is the patch winner. Went from... Oh yeah, Blastoise, S tier in my last tier list. And then we talked about... Who else did we just talk about? We did Mew. Oh yeah, no, it was just S tier. Okay, yeah. So Metagross went from A tier in my last tier list to... Where'd I put it? To S tier in this. Like, yeah, Metagross did not need buffed. They buffed Gyro Ball's damage a ridiculous amount from 560 base damage to 615 base damage. They upped the scaling on it by about 20%. From 215% attack to 237%. Not actually 20% damage, 20% scaling off your attack. Same thing was in Headbutt. They nerfed its scaling by 20% of your attack stat, and then 25% base, or 25 total base damage. They buffed its Unite move. Yeah, Metagross is already solid. I don't know why we buffed Gyro Ball again. Like, Metagross was fine. Metagross is totally fine. I think it's on par with some of the best characters in the game. Okay, this one is going to feel a little bit weird. So Decidueye. Decidueye was previously A tier, and that's where we're going to leave it. But not for the reasons you might be thinking. The buffs, pretty much irrelevant. Razor Leaf has a lower cooldown. Who cares? Razor Leaf is still awful. Play Spirit Shackle every single time. Leaf Storm, you can kind of get away with playing it. They buffed the cooldown on it a little bit. They buffed the stun on it a solid amount, and they buffed the damage decently. Like, it's okay. In some matchups where, you know, you can get away with it, like maybe against some all-arounders you can get away with it. I wouldn't really run it against speedsters. I would just rather have the admittedly very low mobility of Shadowseek, like, but it is still a little bit of mobility. Leaf Storm is only really good as a stun if you're hitting like the closer range increment of it, and if you're hitting it into a wall. Like, it doesn't really do a whole lot else if you're not, you know, hitting it into a wall or hitting like the first, like the closer of the two range increments. So you need people to get really close to you. I would rather just not let people get close to me anytime something's on my screen, you know, just shadow sneak out. But decidueye is still really good, still one of the best. Still one of the best secures in the game with Spare Shackle. It's still great, but the buffs largely irrelevant. Speaking of largely irrelevant buffs, Cramorant's got a 1 second cooldown decrease to dive, and Hurricane got a very slight damage increase by about 10% overall. Previously Cramorant was in my B tier, and I think that's probably still fair. You could talk me into low A for Cram. You could have last patch too, but I think EVs are just slightly better than Cram as mages, so I think B tier is still fine. It's, yeah, good, but the buffs just, they didn't really do much, but Cram is still a really, really good character. Next up, we have TYRANITAR. Okay. So TYRANITAR was previously in my D tier. I thought it was awful. One of the worst characters in the game, and people really did not like that. And, you know, I got a comment on an old TYRANITAR video the day after the patch came out, and I'm like, TYRANITAR is, you know, just whatever. And like I said, it was before the patch, and some dude went ballistic on me. You can go look it up. It's a double stacking TYRANITAR video. Yeah, so the buffs, pretty significant. It gets 50 more defense late game. That's huge. Absolutely massive. And by 50 more defense, I mean 50 more HP at level 15. Absolutely massive buff. And it's about the same throughout the game. So it's like barely any extra HP. And then less defenses than a focus band gives you. Those were the buffs to TYRANITAR. And then the Sun Edge buff, being able to cast it a little bit faster, being able to spam it a little bit more is fine. Dark Pulse is probably still better. However, the Sand Tomb buffs are actually very, very good. You can reduce the activation time and increase the slow duration and the slow intensity. So it does a little bit more crowd control. It's a little bit easier to land. So the Sand Tomb buffs, very significant. Previously, I had TYRANITAR in my D tier, and I'm moving it up to B tier at most. Like, listen, I know like we see all the things that got buffed on, I'm like, oh my god, it's so broken. It's still a TYRANITAR, guys. At the end of the day, it's still TYRANITAR. And I'm recording this the day that Spraggle's video came out about the placebo buff. So, you know, of course, Spraggles makes a video on this. Is no disrespect to Spraggles. I love the guy. He's been nothing but kind to me in the small interactions I've had with him. But like, I think, you know, more people are going to be like, oh yeah, Spraggles made a video on it. He's right. You know, TYRANITAR is actually not that great. And yeah, that's kind of what I was said in my last couple of TYRANITAR videos, the last couple of videos since the patch. Like, it's good, but like, you know, it's still a TYRANITAR, guys. Like, let's be real, it's still gonna be stuck as a Pupitar for a good chunk of the game, unless you're jungling with it. Like, you're gonna see it more often now, and that's, you know, the thing. Like, you're gonna see it more, and so you're gonna realize that, hey, yeah, TYRANITAR, you know, wasn't awful, like, when you're getting levels with it and doing well with it, but when you're not, you're still gonna realize, yeah, this character is just kind of there. You're still gonna realize, oh, hey, my teammate's still a Pupitar at 4 minutes. What are we doing? So you're still gonna have games like that, but you're also gonna see more TYRANITAR players playing in jungle and dominating games. Like, yeah, you're gonna see it more, and thus you're gonna be a little bit more annoyed by how strong it is, but it was always that strong when it was really ahead. So just don't let it get ahead, and you won't be, you know, too, what's the word? Scared, I guess. Yeah, I'll go with that. Also, play mages, play Ninetales against it, play Venusaur against it, play Solar Beam against it, play Dragon Dance against it, very good against it. Play any of the EVs against it, like, well, specifically these two, but Glaceon as well. Yeah, just play mages against it. It's not great at running down mages. If it jumps on you, that's a different story, but don't let it jump on you. Stun it. It's really good into defenders. It's really good at killing tanks. It's really good at killing front lines. It's really strong late game, but it was already pretty good at those things. Now it's just a little bit better at those things, and you're going to see it more. So that's how you deal with TYRANITAR. Play mages, stun it, don't let it get close to you. And if you're the poor tank player going against a TYRANITAR, well, just do your job and try to hit your cooldowns. That's basically it. It's still just a middle of the line Pokemon, guys. It's nothing crazy. Metagross is the actual demon god tier threat from this patch. Okay, Blissey got a helping hand and safeguard buff. So this is another one that rustled a couple of jimmies. Previously I had Blissey in my A tier. That's where we're gonna leave it. But here's my hot take, and this is on my community post last night as I'm recording this. Safeguard helping hand Blissey, unless you have a very specific team, is just a worse trick Koopa. Like, helping hand doesn't really do much. Like, they buffed the attack speed increase and movement speed increase. Let me be clear, this build did not need a buff, and the moment this character is unbanned, we are in for a world of trouble again. But as it stands right now, with 3 weeks left in the current season where EX Pokemon are still banned, unless you have like 2 defenders and a decidueye on your team, or a Dragapult, or a Cinderace, like, unless you have one of these really strong A pressers and like multiple tanks, like, to protect said attacker, like, I would still rather have healing Blissey, Eggs Blissey every single game. Like, yeah, the build is fine, it's playable. Safeguard is objectively good, you know, just being a pocket full heal essentially, but like, I would rather just have healing. Like, I had a trio on my team, of course, tried to play Safeguard Helping Hand Blissey with a Tyranitar as the pocket, and the Tyranitar could not get into a single fight. It couldn't do anything. Like, you'd think, oh hey, we got the new buff toy, let's abuse it. Didn't do anything. The Tyranitar was pretty much dead every single fight because the Blissey, like, listen, it's good, you know, being able to block a stun for like a couple seconds, it's really solid, but you know, you don't have healing, you're just gonna die. If you're gonna play a support like that, if you're gonna play a support that focuses on getting your team in, especially with Tyranitar, just play this Pokemon. Don't play this Pokemon. You're an absolute asshole if you play this Pokemon, but just play Trick Koopa if that's the playstyle you're going for. If you're playing Blissey, use it for the Unite move, use it for healing. That's just me. I know Blissey players come at me in the comments, but I don't think I'm wrong about this one. Delphox got some decent nerfs to Fire Spin. Got its cooldown increased and the duration of the spin decreased. Still fine, like, cooldown nerfs aren't really a huge problem, like, still a good move. Fire Blast got a pretty decently sized damage nerf by about, I want to say, like, somewhere between 5 and 10% total damage. I think Delphox is still fine. Previously we had it in B tier. I think that's a perfectly fine place for it, so we're going to leave it in B tier. Still good, still really strong. Good Unite move. And then finally we have our friend Glaceon that got the movement speed increase from Ice Shard has been nerfed by 10%, and the Icicle Spear damage has been nerfed initially. So the first instance of damage from Icicle Spear got nerfed. Previously we had Glaceon in S tier. It's not going anywhere. Glaceon's still broken, still doesn't have to aim to do ridiculous damage, so yeah, still S tier. So there is my tier list for the current patch. Let me know who you agree or disagree. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of pushback on Tyranitar. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of pushback on, well, maybe if Blissey mains, you know, do disagree, but I don't think I'm too wrong on Blissey. I mean, maybe people will disagree on Ninetales, but I have a feeling a lot of people either are going to hard disagree with Tyranitar, or yeah, I don't know. I think Tyranitar is the thing that we're going to get the most discussion about. Maybe some Inteleon players will be mad. Maybe some Duraludon players will come out of the woodworks again. But that's where we're standing right now. And I will go ahead and catch you all in the next one. Like I said, if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. See y'all in the next one. Take it easy. Bye.